What's up, guys? What's up, Anton? Appreciate this video. Okay. I was watching this and I was like, not, but it's 2 o'clock. My aunt and uncle are here. I should be in bed. They've been in bed for several hours, but here I am, like, and yet I was like, well, I can record in the morning. And I was sneaking in like a ninja, trying to make no noise so the dog doesn't start barking and wake everyone up. And I'm like, I get past the door, I'm wearing this jacket. I'm like, okay, my jacket didn't hit the door. I grab the door handle, I slowly turn it, put it against the door, like, frame, so it's like in position. And then I'm like, I made it, I'm done. And then I just like casually, and it's like click. Luckily he didn't start barking, so I guess he's fast asleep. But I was like, I guess I'm not done. So turn on the light, sit down. I'm like, some reason I don't remember exactly related to the shallogram. For some reason I was looking up lion. In part because I'm like, yeah, I am a Leo. And I was like, I don't know. I noticed they're 6 foot to 6'8" male. They're 420 pounds male. Pardon me. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna hit record. Turn on the light all the way. Sit down, here we are. Okay. So, a little prequel information is I've been recently talking about this. I was like, Hawaii, maybe it formed together as one unit, so I just like started to put the pieces together. And then I was like, it looks more fitting, like, if the current just wraps around and like it's one unit as a sphere, like based on these currents. Like, this looks like, generally speaking, I don't know if it's exact, but generally speaking, I believe a current goes like this way and like runs into resistance, wrapping around the other side and bends off of it. And then over here, it's not drawn exact, more this region, although I think actually Gurnar would be here and the mantle puncture hole would be here. Gurnar would be the mass, mantle puncture hole would be the volcano, really. And even interestingly, the mass having volcanic, but not to a point where it's a volcano, but it's like a little weird of a volcano. But then over here, this goes around here and wraps around to be like the lobe of here. This here is this. I just put it over here because it wraps around, and energetically this continues down to here and creates this lobe, which maybe even cut across here. And maybe I didn't position Greenland well. There's my water. It's like, I guess I gotta drink coffee at 2 a.m. My lips are so much cotton mouth. And I know the mic picks it up, so I'm like, I know you guys are like, oh my god, I gotta listen to this. I mean, you could have like done it better. So like this current maybe flows over here even. Maybe not. I think it doesn't. I'm not sure. Yeah, this generally goes to here. So I'm not sure what's going on here. Maybe. Also, I found in the last video, I think, like this. It, oh, it's just really laggy. Oh, God. Oh, no. What have I done? So in short, while we figure out if I undid what I just did, I think I did. But it might just... That's... In short, I thought Hawaii was a particle. Okay, there's that. There's that going on, and there's also ancient Dwarka was attacked by a vortex weapon here. So there's a vortex storm here that moves in this region. So there's both A, Hawaii as a particle, and B, vortex storm on the surface of Earth, or like approximal to the surface of Earth. Okay. Betelgeuse is believed to be about to supernova, and I've talked about this before. So because that was the subject matter, and Anton's videos are always awesome, I was like, of course I need to watch this. And I was sitting outside smoking because that's what I need to do at 1:30 in the morning after, like I was saying, everything like that I said. Like, I should have went to bed after recording, but I just felt good because the last recording was pretty nice. And this, I sat outside while my channel uploaded, so it wasn't like, I couldn't even like play this one. And I, at that point, like looking back, I almost need to stop making these and then like take a break from them and then rewatch them at some point somehow, or just be like, sorry, I literally don't remember things that I have said on a scale that's just like, wait, I said that? Like, I was listening to, I think it was this one, or no, something. One of them I was talking about having like currents overlapping and then causing them to go out of phase to like create particles. And then I forgot about it. I literally forgot about it until I listened to it. I was like, oh yeah. And then it occurred to me like, dude, I forgot about that. Like, of like this things like that probably is somewhat important of a concept to be like picking up on. Oh my god. So like, I don't know. Anyway, besides the point, pardon me for this like talking about myself. Or whatever the hell that was.
And today we're going to be discussing Betelgeuse.
But essentially, Betelgeuse is about to supernova. And so this video caught my attention because of things that he said. Initially, I was like, okay, false alarm. This is going to be about the things that I heard about recently and maybe some other things. But I didn't anticipate and some other things that were here to be like making me like, I'm only 6 minutes in, if that, and I'm already like, I'm gonna react to this now. So I'll put a link in this, and this is gonna be it's kind of in my underground science series. I don't know if I should put it as like I tend to put reaction or Steve Scully reacts, but it's really, I mean, I guess that's what I'll do. It feels so associated with the recent subject matter that pains me to like put it in a reacts column rather than underground science number 88. Okay.
Betelgeuse once again, and specifically that mystery of the diminutive Betelgeuse from 2019-2020. Because as you might remember, a few years ago, we had this unusual event when the actual brightness of the star dropped by nearly 60% for no apparent reason, with the dimming itself lasting for several months. And the initial explanations involved some kind of a large emission from the star which probably produced quite a lot of dust that then left the star.
Pardon me, I'm just adjusting the volume on the fly. Usually I'm significantly lower than the volume of the audio. I also have to remember to pause. Okay, those things aside.
Star and very likely blocked some of the star from our perspective. Even if this is exactly what happened here, we still don't know. Initial explanations involved some kind of a large emission from the star which probably produced quite a lot of dust that then left the star and very likely blocked some of the star from our perspective. Even if this is exactly what happened here, we still don't understand why this event occurred or why the star had this unusual emission. I mean, the actual effect was quite dramatic. The star on the right is what it looked like at its dimmest, making this one of the biggest mysteries of the last few decades. And so in this video, we're going to explore some of the new propositions, and actually some of the more eccentric propositions, on why exactly the star experienced this unusual emission, and why it suddenly released so much matter, which ended up blocking the star for at least a few months. Because right now this is still the best explanation. But I guess first, it's important to understand that these stars have very different properties from stars like our Sun, which are a lot more compact and a lot more spherical. Our Sun is also going to become a similar...
The currents. I haven't even really like accounted for what I can really extrapolate from this and extract from it. I don't know if, although that maybe is what's happening in a way where it like causes system to collapse in a fundamental way where it's kind of like this is the wrong way. I don't know. I don't know if like love is the way and like none of this matters. That like makes sense, but at the same time like we got some issues. Like if I choose love and the world is not like addressed, we're kind of, it's like taking a car and having and being like, okay, we want to go faster and not shifting gears. That's what it is. Choose love. Choose don't shift gears. Just keep pushing the pedal down and then redline the engine. We're like, everything's fine. We can just be like, shift like 5 gears. Be like, well, fuck it. We were in first gear way too long. Let's just jump up to like 4th gear. Boom. 5th gear. Boom. I don't know. I guess it would be more 4th, 5th. I haven't driven stick in a while.
more spherical.
I miss my Jeep.
Our Sun is also going to become a similar red giant in the future, but not as big as Betelgeuse. But when it does, it's going to start acquiring very similar properties, with the star itself expanding several hundred times in size, becoming much cooler, but also becoming a lot more unstable in terms of its actual shape. Even a single convection cell on the surface here is sometimes 20 to 30% the radius of the star itself. The convection cells on the Sun are tiny in comparison, and as a result, these stars tend to actually move around a lot more, and it's even difficult to pinpoint exactly where their center is. For example, here's a model.
Okay, you said like 20% the radius. There's maybe one. This is one. I don't know if it's 20%, but I'm sure there are like here before the Earth expanded when the systems were closer. Like these were big systems of eddies forming, generally speaking. That were probably much more essentially, so the Earth supernovaed when it was attacked by a vortex weapon. Essentially, it punctured the mantle, and the mantle then upwelled, and space inwelled or downwelled, and then more like balanced, I guess, like water downwelled too. Maybe even, I don't know, maybe space is in some way water like. But it's really ether-like. Okay, anyway, besides the point. I know I'm just saying things that probably make no sense. That's why I want to put this as like underground science number 88, but I'm going to probably make it reacts. So I'm just saying it so it's like verbally in here, so like noted. Okay. But so Earth had like large things going on.
They move around a lot more, and it's even difficult to pinpoint exactly what their center is.
Pretty much just like,
for example,
maybe
here's a model kind of
there's like
showing us that the center of the star jumps around every few weeks.
This is incredible. Let me go back to the beginning of this video so we can actually pay attention to the video.
And as a result, these stars tend to actually move around a lot more, and it's even difficult to pinpoint exactly what their center is. For example, here's a model kind of showing us that the center of the star jumps around every few weeks. And so these stars definitely...
It's like it's expanding not just the star, but its core. And if it like had enough energy, it would just be stable. It looks like another, there's the snake again. Lower jaw, eye, upper lip.
vary quite a lot and change their shape all the time.
I don't know if this is real or model,
kind of difficult to define.
but either way, it also looks like Africa, like in this way, where it's got that there, and then maybe like here. With a cross. Oh my god.
The surface here is kind of difficult to define, but having this object release such a huge amount that then dims it by 60% is a different story. And so one of the earlier suggestions was that maybe Betelgeuse is approaching its sort of end. Maybe it's about to explode and go supernova. And knowing what we know about these stars, or basically knowing that they usually take a few thousand years to go through this particular stage before they go supernova, there's actually a very intriguing way to find out if this idea is correct. It involves looking at some of the ancient records from various civilizations that looked at the star before. So for example, this study that looked at this a few months ago, and specifically focused on Betelgeuse and Antares, discovered that Antares was quite the same for a long time. But Betelgeuse has changed in the last few thousands of years. It seems to have changed in color compared to some of the earlier observations from the Chinese observers, which implies that maybe Betelgeuse has actually entered this stage only relatively recently, which also means that it's going to stay in this particular stage for a very long time. In other words, assuming that these observations are correct, it's not going to go supernova for thousands and thousands of years, and it is just going through its early transition stages. Now, likewise, if it has only recently entered this relatively active and relatively giant stage, there is another really important implication from all of this, and it actually has something to do with what you might see around Betelgeuse. it naturally might have had some planets that formed here early on. Now, it's obviously not certain if it ever had planets, and there's probably no direct way to find out right now, but assuming that it did have planets, it most likely, as it expanded, ended up consuming some of them relatively recently, within the last few hundreds of years. And intriguingly, a recent paper kind of described this in some detail.
Okay. Enter Hawaii. Earth had a planet. When Earth supernovaed because it was attacked by a vortex weapon, it formed Hawaii as a particle, as a sphere like this that was actually within the currents. So let's see what's going on.
It essentially described what happens to various stars, giant stars, when they do swallow certain planets. And in the process, they did discover that if the planet is really giant and if it's really massive, the star itself will start having unusual effects on the surface and potentially even behave in very chaotic ways. Specifically, it can actually affect the star's rotation, it can even change its chemical composition.
Can affect the star's rotation. It can change its chemical composition. So, like, the absorption ish of the particle of Hawaii into the earth.
And it can actually create quite a lot of unbinding energy, which ends up releasing huge chunks of atmosphere. So, I mean, kind of like what happened here.
Huge chunks of atmosphere. Like the ozone hole in the ozone layer or something. Maybe it like moved from over Hawaii. I don't know. I don't know if that's. I don't know the time frame of that. That might have formed recently to a point where it's really not like reasonably related to like thousands of years ago.
So, in other words, there is a bit of an implication that maybe, and it's a big maybe, there was a giant planet that was swallowed by Betelgeuse in the last few hundreds of years, and that planet might be causing some of the disruption we're seeing, with the chunk then becoming loose. And so, because the planet was eaten and the planet is now stirring the star from the inside, this vigorous stirring resulted in some of the parts of the star then essentially being thrown off and escaping.
Interesting. I'm just thinking because he's saying it like went into and caused stirring within. I mean, maybe Hawaii formed and then it went in, caused stirring, and then went out. Like, essentially bounced around until it broke free again at the. Oh my god. What if it just bounced around, broke through here, just like out of the like thinly formed ice versus like really thick ice? It just broke through here and then just came over here and like bounced down under and then back up here and kind of stabilized here. I don't know. That would be crazy where it then like splattered out the islands in the current that then just stabilize where they are, but like still matching like the general currents of everything. Oh my god, that would be so cool though. Okay, let's go back though.
Into the outer space.
I really need to
Although
finish.
for most extreme effects, the planet will have to be really massive as well, basically a brown dwarf. And so in this case, this particular planet, this terrestrial planet, would very likely not be enough. But if Betelgeuse had some
It would very likely not be enough. Interesting.
kind of a Jupiter-like object, or even something more massive than Jupiter, and more specifically, some kind of a hot Jupiter orbiting around it, that could maybe explain some of these effects. At least that's one of the initial propositions here, one of the initial potential explanations. But then we have another one that's a little bit more extreme, or
So that one's kind of like the storm. Okay. I think this next one.
I guess a little bit more curious, interesting, unusual. I mean, choose the word yourself. It does involve a black hole. So the paper in the description below proposes that it can also be explained if there was something relatively massive and something relatively dense passing close enough to the star to essentially cause what's known as a tidal disruption. Now, we normally talk about tidal disruption events when it comes to very massive black holes, and normally stars being spaghettified and essentially shredded by black holes as they approach a black hole really close, but that's not entirely what we're talking about here. In this case, it could have been a slightly opposite event. There could be a black hole in orbit around Betelgeuse, or possibly some kind of a dense, massive object passing relatively close just this once. And having an object like a neutron star, a black hole, or even a white dwarf in orbit of a red giant, a black hole, or even a white dwarf in orbit of a red giant is actually very common, so that's definitely not impossible. And because in this case the observations do suppose as they approach a black hole really close, but that's not entirely what we're talking about here. In this case, it could have been a slightly opposite event. There could be a black hole in orbit around Betelgeuse, or possibly some kind of a dense, massive object passing relatively close just this once.
There it is. Or possibly an object passing by relatively close just this once. Like a vortex storm caused by a vortex weapon used on ancient Dwarka that then subsided. Maybe there's something of that nature going on there on Betelgeuse. On Betelgeuse, we're seeing like a different angle. My thought is every system is a different angle of the same system. Oh, I'm such an ass. Just ignore like the different angle of everyone. Oh, just system, not humans and all involved. Us. Oh my god. I'm just like, oh yeah, like I, maybe even like consciously, I, like, upon deaths, realize, like, and see, like, how much of a noob I was. Like, oh, alright. Fair enough. Cool, I guess. If that's how it is, at least that's how it is. Alright.
And having an object like a neutron star, a black hole, or even a white dwarf in orbit of a red giant is actually very common, so that's definitely not impossible. And because in this case the observations do suggest that whatever happened was on the outside and not inside the star, it kind of does imply that something disrupted the star, or possibly something caused the star to be disrupted from inside as well, by either doing something on the inside or by doing something
Like a vortex storm puncturing the mantle so that space could flow within.
on the outside. As a matter of fact, the star itself is just a little bit too big and a little bit too active to suddenly have these changes as a result of changes inside the fusion reaction or inside the core. So the disruption and the dimming really appear to have some kind of an external effect independent of the star's activity. And in this case, if the shape of Betelgeuse's outer atmosphere did change and resulted in what's known as gravity darkening, a phenomenon usually visible around stars that spin really fast, where the actual equator appears much darker than the polar regions, one possibility here is that maybe Betelgeuse has gone through something similar. Something caused a part of the equator to move away from the core farther than the rest of the star, which in the process reduced the temperature and thus reduced the brightness. And intriguingly enough, we do know that the temperature here did change. As a matter of fact, the observations about this were completely accidental. There's actually this Japanese satellite known as Himawari 8 that creates some of the most beautiful pictures of the region, allowing us to keep track of everything, including hurricanes, including pollution, and a lot of other things, such as sudden eruptions of volcanoes. This is the famous eruption of Tonga. And in this case, this particular satellite, because of its ability to observe infrared light, in some of its peripheral vision somewhere right there, was also able to observe Betelgeuse during its dimming period. And the scientists that have accidentally discovered this determined that Betelgeuse changed its temperature by approximately 140 degrees Celsius, in the process also discovering potential signs of dust or some kind of matter covering the star itself, which of course gives more credibility to this scenario.
Which makes me think of the glaciers, like after the Hawaiian island, like was absorbed into the earth temporarily, bouncing around. Maybe bouncing around causing like bonds to break, I don't know. Then it was re-emitted at some point, and that's when the supernova actually occurred. So like it hasn't actually been re-emitted out of Betelgeuse to like be on its surface pretty much, but maybe its surface, like in our perception of Earth, like relative to Betelgeuse, like this is pre-expansion, and post-expansion would be like its nebula, where like that particle actually moves to, which is how Hawaii is like at that nebula's boundary probably.
Scenario right here, and of course confirms that something caused
Earth's
Betelgeuse
nebula has moved like the nebula to being our perceived position around the star, that nova equivalent,
release huge amounts of
basically.
matter all at once. And so in this paper, the scientists proposed that any kind of a random visitor, for example a black hole, a white dwarf, or even a neutron star, would actually be able to produce all of these effects if it passed at a certain distance away from the star, causing a tidal disruption, with their models establishing that 60% dimming effect could definitely be created by this particular event. But unfortunately, because there is no other evidence otherwise, and because we haven't really seen any other emissions such as X-rays, or really anything else indicating a black hole, a neutron star, or even a white dwarf passing here, at the moment it's more or less just a novel explanation, an interesting and intriguing explanation, but not necessarily the most.
It probably would be a black hole equivalent. Like I think it just kind of goes like positive, negative, and at some point it turns into like the negative is the black hole, and the positive is the stars. So then we see stars, but then we see as like positive, like these emission points, but then negative being the black hole. So maybe like the next positive is like the white hole that has maybe not been quite detected, or like the great attractor, and then the next negative is the dipole repeller, something like that. And things of its scale, their scale, because it's just a sea of these particles. um,
Correct one. But right now, these are the best.
so like it would, in a way, be a black hole and behave like it, but then it wouldn't like truly be. Although, like, it just makes me think of the quantity of magma, and probably and that Mauna Loa has the like 100,000 cubed kilometers of magma, pretty much, and then directly adjacent to the tallest mountain on Earth, which maybe I'm mistaken, and Gurnar is not. And maybe it is, but I don't know if they've accounted for Gurnar, so maybe not. Because I believe it's like the tallest mountain on Earth, but like where like really it's like this particle way out here, and Earth is like here, and the tallest mountain on Earth is Gurnar, but like because of the way things work, it's all like together as one like reality.
Explanations we have about what might have happened. So, possibly a black hole, white dwarf neutron star passing nearby, or possibly a large, massive planet being swallowed by Betelgeuse a few hundred years ago as it transformed from one stage to another, and as the planet, still possibly orbiting somewhere within the star, is essentially causing all of these disruptions. Or maybe something else entirely happened and we just don't really know what yet. Chances are, though, we're going to be coming back and talking more about this in some of the future videos. These are really intriguing propositions and really intriguing investigations, but they just need more evidence. More observations, more discoveries about something coming from Betelgeuse, and not
Oh, it's crazy how much evidence is in the Earth and in like just everything other than specifically Beetlejuice. Wow.
not just modeling, proposition, and theories. But until we discover something else, that's pretty much all I wanted to mention. All of the links and papers in the description below. Thank you for watching, subscribe, share this with someone who loves learning about space and sciences, come back tomorrow to learn something else, and maybe support this channel on Patreon by joining channel membership or by buying the wonderful person t-shirt you can find in the description.
Oh my
Stay
God.
wonderful, I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, bye-bye.
Thanks, man. Cool. Cool. Fair. Fair. So what should I do? Okay, so that's that. Do I make it 88 or the things I care about? Fuck. It's a little foggy up in these parts right now. It really is. I walked outside. I was like, yeah, I definitely shouldn't be smoking, huh? I should definitely have just gone to bed like I thought initially. I was like, eh. Here I am now, an hour later. Alright, peace out.